Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. Today I have a special guest on the call. I have actually Sathish Murthy from Cohesity. I'm not too sure what Satish does, but I actually know, but I'll let him do the introduction. But hey, Satish, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. This is awesome to be here, and so really appreciative of your initiative. So let me give you my introduction. So I run the technical team for ASEAN, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and India at Cohesity.
Right, awesome. Cohesity is like the buzz now. I mean, I see it, appearing on all kinds of content that I see in the market. I get a lot of newsletters from Tech Target and stuff like that. So I know what Cohesity does generally, but why
You're
don't you
right.
share with us a little bit of what Cohesity does? What's your go-to-market like, and yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, Charles. So if you look at what Cohesity does, people do misunderstand at times what Cohesity does, but I'll give you a quick brief of that. What Cohesity is doing is a data management company. It is not a backup company. Let's be very clear, data management company. So what we do is very, very identical to what Google did in the consumer world, right? What did Google do? Have one large file system, have a very simple layer on top, a simple management layer. And on top, you have apps and services that you can tap on to do Gmail or YouTube or whatever you want to do today. I mean, it is so synonymous. My kids say, I want to Google it. They don't say, I want to search it. Right?
Awesome.
I'm sure yours too, right?
Yes, yes.
But if you take that to the enterprise, if you take it to the enterprise, we don't have a Google of the enterprise. Right? There are great companies out there who are focused on certain things, but what Cohesity is trying to do is to be the Google layer of the enterprise. We want to be the glue that brings in the data that may be from backup, that may be from unstructured, that may be from logs, that may be from security, and bring us a one single layer. And through different apps and services, you should be able to tap on and get business analytics to any data set.
That seems like
Right?
really exciting, I mean, it's interesting that you say you're not a backup company because obviously the buzz is like, oh, you know what, they're on the backup Magic Quadrant and so on and so forth. So can you guys just
That's
walk
right.
us through, how are you guys on that quadrant and how do you kind of lead to whatever you were just saying, analytics,
Oh,
etc.
I mean, that's a great question. So if you look at where is the bulk of the data today, the bulk of the data is when you do backup. You want to do analytics. Where, I mean, the bulk of the data could be from primary SAN, could be from NAS, could be from any device. It may be from CCTV. It may be from log analytics engine, could be anywhere.
Yep.
So if I have to look at the first place where I need to bring the data in for this Google-like layer in the enterprise, you need to bring through backup. So that is one way to get us in there. You start Cohesity as a layer that would be a backup target, could be as simple as that, or could be a backup software that actually brings all kind of data in. That could be from VMware in particular. And you bring that all in, and then you can start analytics on top of it.
Wow, that's actually a very smart idea. I mean, everybody does some form of backup, right? And then, like, I mean, to your point, this data is all sitting dormant. I mean, in some sense, you do it for recovery, but you guys are doing a very smart thing and taking this data and then, making, sense of all that. But I'm sure you get
Absolutely.
this a lot, right? I mean, so you have this whole bunch of data that you collect, and obviously on a good day used for backup and recovery. Is there like security concerns? People talking about being able to kind of peer into this data and then get some sense out of it.
Yeah, let me give you an example. Say you walk into a customer, if you're a government agency, and you walk into a large bank and say, give me the last 10-year money laundering analysis. Mm-hmm. It's a simple question. Give me a last 10 years money laundering analysis. You should have all the data, right? So the agency goes, taps on the bank's door, give me this analytics. What does the bank do? I look into my primary storage, I open it up, I find out for the last 1 year, luckily you should have some data. So you can run analytics. If you're on a high performance flash tier, you should give that. But for the remaining 9 years, what do? You can't go back to, if you start unloading your tapes or unloading your disk, or unloading any other appliance, it could probably take the next 2 to 3 years just to recover the last 9 years worth of data.
Right.
And that means you're not getting any analytics out in the next 1-2 years. So what does Cohesity do is that once you have 9 or 10 years worth of data, for example, any Cohesity customer, you could walk in there and ask for last 9 or 10 years of money laundering analysis. Because Cohesity does metadata across all the worth of data that we have, just write an API. In next 5 minutes, you get an answer for all the money laundering analytics for the last 10 years.
Wow.
So it's just not looking at backup, but you have a gold mine, right? This is a gold mine that you're tapping on it.
I mean, definitely. I mean, it's almost like, it seems to me like everybody's kind of had this gold mine, but it's untapped resource, if you like, right? So
that is right.
Very interesting.
So I'll give you another example, right? The other example could be as simple as you have a lot of password files in the company, or may have a credit card number. You may typically, what do you do when you do a check-in into a hotel? You pass your credit card.
Yep.
That's the first thing we all do, and they swipe it on whatever the system that they have.
Correct.
Right? 2 nights, 3 days, whatever, and then you log in. And then you finish your work. That's pretty much what you do. But what does the hotel chain do? They take, probably it's on a VM, and then they take it to a SQL database. On the SQL database, the admin would take a backup or export that dump into somewhere, and then pass it to a third-party agency to run a program during COVID-19, for example, staycation, 5 days and 4 nights free or whatever it is.
Very nice.
Right? And right, so they get you on board. When there is a third-party agency involved, and what happens to your credit card number?
Yeah,
that is just
got sold or something. I mean, there's obviously these data leaks and whatnot these days.
That is correct, and that is where the data makes a lot of sense to be analyzed, and all kind of data Cohesity would get you to look into that data set. Assume you have a credit card number or a social security number or a passport number. You should be able to pull out in the next couple of minutes to say, hey, these are the data which is sensitive, mask it out. The rest of the data, keep it.
So, hey, that's cool stuff, man. I know that's, the whole larger Cohesity story, but you guys have also more functional use cases, I'm sure. I mean, obviously backup being one of them. I know you guys do some form of, I think the buzzword is a secondary or second tier storage or something along those lines. Can you kind of talk a little bit to that?
Sure. So we're not secondary anymore. We are data management solution company.
Nice.
That's pretty clear, right? So the reason for it is a couple of things, right? I mean, as the enterprises embraces Cohesity, the vision of the company is very huge. But as we progress over a period of years, the company morphs itself where we can provide a lot of enterprise solution to customers. But the final goal is to be the Google of the enterprise.
Yes.
So with that said, when we have to see how do we evolve where we can help customers. So one of the use cases could be as simple as backup. That means we plug into VMware, we plug into Hyper-V, Nutanix, and all these NAS and storages bring all the great data inside. The second, as simple as it could be an object store, which could scale infinitely. So you have checks, you have digital requirements, you have digital books. That's the second. The third could be unstructured data as simple as scale-out NAS. Where we would plug into an enterprise to become the Dropbox of that company in a very simple sync and share kind of requirement, or could be your file store where you would access it from NFS or Windows. That's a couple of use cases. Now, if you move further, you also have the key component which would come is cloud. How do you take this data, move to the cloud of your choice, Google, AWS, and Azure? You add more components that will be test and dev. That means you take a copy of this data, take a copy of a VM, spin up multiple copies. That would be another. Now, on top of all of these is where you have the analytic engine.
Yep.
So the analytic engine is extremely important because what Cohesity does is something called like an Apple App Store, if you would call it, or what do the Google call
an
Apple
or
user?
Something like that.
Yeah, the Play Store. Yeah, we do have a marketplace. So you go into a marketplace. So you tap on the apps that you love, like Google or like Apple. If you go 10 years ago, they had 20 apps. Today, they have 20 million apps. So same analogy, if you would call it. So you go into the marketplace, select the app that you want, and spin up on Cohesity with literally no cost. Or certain partner solutions, for example, could be as simple as mainframe backup. So if Cohesity had to go into a mainframe customer where we want to provide those data management layers, so you tap on an app called Model 9, in particular in the marketplace, and it basically moves all your mainframe data into the Cohesity platform. So it kind of gives you that modern edge on the legacy solution.
You know, I just want to double click on that discussion on cloud. You know, I just want to bring us a bit closer back to home, you know, where, you know, in ASEAN and whatnot, where, you know, to the point of backups, right? And then tiering to the cloud. I still feel it's not, I mean, I may be wrong. I mean, I just want to kind of get your thoughts on it. You know, our customers in ASEAN doesn't seem to embrace that whole tiering to the cloud, you know, for backups very well. I'm not too sure if that's what you're seeing the field, or, you know, is there a transition and shift? And yeah, can we kind of talk a little bit about that?
Great question. So great question, because I've been in ASEAN for many, many years like you. The challenge is we probably start late than most of the other regions. So, but cloud has been ticking quite well. I think the first thing was the confidence, whether the data is secure and safe. And most of the customers started with moving those unimportant data, but consuming space, let's ship it to the cloud. That's how things start. And then moves over the next important data. And as the priority goes on, most critical data has been moved. So if you look at the customer set, especially around ASEAN, we see the trend has been changing, phenomenally changing. I think Singapore has been a classic example where customers are talking about DR to the cloud, literally a DR. So you take a VM running on VMware, which is running on VMDK. So they want a DR on the cloud. They don't want a DR on a second site. They want AWS AMI to be brought up.
Nice.
So that's a true DR on the cloud. So you have a breakdown, you bring up on the cloud. That's one. The second, there are a set of customers who completely run on the cloud. And the third would embrace a hybrid cloud. I have certain data set which is on the cloud. There are certain data set on the ground. So how do I sync up? So these are different classifications. That is in Singapore. But across the region, whether it is Indonesia or Malaysia, where we see the traction has been phenomenally high.
Yeah, I think it's about time as well. I mean, I've been trying to convince some of my customers to say, hey, you know what? I think it's really the next wave, and everybody's kind of investing in that next wave. I wouldn't say on-premise backup is dead, but I think everybody's looking at a better way of doing it. And I mean, the cloud model has been around for a while, you know, maybe hot data 3 or 4 days on-premise and then everything else in the cloud and whatnot. So it's great. I mean, obviously you guys are specialists in that area, and it's great to see the traction happening. And I mean, still talking about cloud, I know you talk about AMI and, you know, recovery in the cloud. Obviously, you know, I work for VMware, and I'm particularly interested about that whole Cohesity collaboration with VMware Cloud on AWS. You know, what do we have there, man?
Okay, so we got phenomenal integration with VMware, and I would say this on record, right? Majority of our customers run VMware.
That's good to hear, man. That's good to hear.
If we solve the VMware problem, we are solving majority of the workspace challenges out there. And that is the innovation that comes from Cohesity, phenomenal innovation that revolves around VMware for 80% of the time. And the reason being is we see a lot of customers embracing, first is virtualization wave, followed by the rest of the things. And now recently the VMware Cloud as well. So there are multiple things that customers do in the enterprise. And I think Cohesity is in the forefront of innovation along with VMware. I think where you would see is what we do today is as elegant it could be. We plug into the VMware farm, agentless, totally agentless, where we could plug in and discover the VM, move the data out onto the Cohesity or directly onto the cloud, right? So that's one part given. Now, we also sit on top of as a very simple plugin to the vCloud Director. So that gives a lot of customers, especially service provider, would love to see a simple plugin to backup and recovery on the VCD.
I mean, the VCD integration is something that I don't think too many backup vendors have, or, you know, data protection vendors have that integrates with VMware. So actually, that's powerful.
Yeah, that brings a lot of value to the customer, because now if I'm a service provider, I can just double click and say, okay, a tenant can define their own backup policy, because based on their costs, how much they consume, they're going to pay their own bill. So we could actually give the control back to the clients who are on a service provider model to select the policy that they would like to choose and start their own backup, start their own services, and enjoy the utility model totally. Now, going one step further on to the VMware Cloud, we do embrace the VMware Cloud fully with integrated API. And thanks to VAIO, right? VAIO from VMware, which is the newer API protocol that allows us to do CDP with VMware.
Wow. Okay. So
right?
so that's like, at any point in time rollback in the cloud, right?
That is correct.
Very nice. Very
nice. So it gives us a complete. Our customers enjoy the benefits of VMware that they have been doing for the last 20 years. They love it. And that's why they still use VMware. But when they see Cohesity plugs in so easily with the CDP, with the VMware Cloud embracement, and moving to 3 other clouds when you need it, that gives us a whole new advantage to the customers.
So do you actually then need to have like appliance of sorts on premise and then one in the cloud to have that happen? Or can you like just completely live in the cloud? Or how does that work, man?
Okay, so that depends on the choice of the customer, especially when we all together have a common channel partners who define a solution. So I think where the would come is what would you like to do? Okay. Do you like to have a simple archive? You want to have a simple DR? Then you don't need an on-prem. You spin up directly on the cloud and you start using your data backups or NAS or object services on the cloud. Now, the second option could be, I am full-time on the cloud, or at least 80% of my data center, multiple petabytes is on AWS, Azure, Google. You should be able to spin up Cohesity cluster. Again, it is a cluster, so you can add nodes as you like. And you should be able to back up the VMware farm or VMware Cloud right in the cloud itself. So you're born in the cloud, move in the cloud, organically grow in the cloud. Nothing to do with Earth.
Very nice. Yeah. So just switching gears a little bit, today in our industry at least, not a day goes by when we don't talk about containers and Kubernetes and everything else that revolves around it. So I just want to get your thought. There is many schools of thoughts around Kubernetes. There are some school of thoughts that says that, hey, you know what, there's really no need for a backup. And then you have another school that say, hey, you know what, it is data that, if you're going to run production workload on it, there's some form of data protection. So I just kind of want to know, your thoughts on that topic specifically.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that. So if you look at Kubernetes, this is crazy growth. Dockers and Kubernetes, we are seeing just the tickle now. And this would be like a deluge or avalanche that you would call, right? Yeah. So we are seeing this microservices growing crazy, especially in ASEAN and other parts of the world as well. If somebody says they don't see it, probably they did not talk to the right person. But almost every single organization has a lot of Kubernetes now.
Yes.
Now, given that development is happening out there, backup is extremely important, right? Why? Simply ask the guy who lost the data. They will tell you why, right? There are multiple attacks, and especially during COVID-19, and you call this phase as a mature phase of COVID-19, if you would call it, unfortunately. The mature phase of COVID-19 where everybody is logged at home, like you and me, right? Where we have come to a point where get on with the Zoom, that's all. What else we can do? So when we are coming to the mature phase of the COVID-19, ransomware is prevalent. It's brutal. And we are just seeing that the increase in that ransomware thing, lack of words, it's a very profitable business. All you have to do is just zip a file, throw an encryption key without the key, and then ask for the money. Now, how does company protect it? Because you're a development team. Yes. And you wrote a great code for the last 6 months, right? About 10 people working from home, connected across, and they brought a great project that will actually create next $10 and $20 million for the company. And that got locked and encrypted. You would say you don't want to do a backup and you don't want to restore.
Yeah, that's very, very real.
Right?
It's a real threat, that one.
That is right. So what Cohesity does is that we beautifully integrate with Kubernetes today and Docker containers. We take a seamless stateful backup. We are able to recover at a namespace level, at a container level, moving forward. And there's a lot of functionality that comes in. And along with ransomware analytics, that is extremely important, right? To detect that somebody got a ransomware and tell the customer that, hey, I detected a ransomware based on analytics, go back to the right copy. So adds a lot of value moving forward.
Yeah, I'm glad we kind of discussed this, man, because I think you know, as Kubernetes or the container world matures, what used to be something that ran on a laptop of a developer, and when it comes to you know, moving into data center, there's a lot more considerations that in the past didn't seem quite as important. So now, you know, you come in, it's like, hey, you know, where's the security, where's the network, where's the RBAC controls, and whatever that goes with it in the data center, right? So yeah, it's interesting. It's very, very interesting, that one. So, you know, the other topic that we can't stop talking about, obviously, is COVID. I mean, it definitely impacted a lot of us. Like you mentioned, we're working from home. Obviously, at VMware, we did, you know, we have the whole EUC suite and, you know, Workspace ONE, etc. So I'm just curious, I mean, is there a play for you guys or, you know, what you guys doing with regards to COVID? Is there any unique use cases born out of this whole situation?
Absolutely. I mean, thanks that you brought up, Charles. It's a different scenario now. So the priorities changed. Now, the priorities changed from the customers who are talking about backup suddenly switched to the other space. How do I leverage VDI on VMware Horizon, which is one, and how do I get my home directories across? How do I get my sync and share? How do I put a file so that it can collaborate across all the people of my company at their home? I can't use, right? So I can't use a third-party cloud solution because of security reasons. How do I build a Dropbox for my enterprise that can access from my mobile phone? I can access from my VDI station. I can access and collaborate across teams. So this was completely borne out for the last 4 months, right? I mean, things are gone, if you add a word, like it's gone crazy, right? People are just embracing VDI and Dropbox kind of functionality everywhere.
Totally. I think it's great. I mean, assuming that, you know, you already have a Cohesity solution doing backups or, you know, data analytics and everything else, and then if this happened and you suddenly need a Dropbox-like service, it's fantastic. It's just, you know, I'm assuming it's a flick of a switch and you just enable the feature and ready to go because you already have the data all at the back end. I mean, you don't actually necessarily need to subscribe a third party like, you know, I don't know, Dropbox for one, and obviously the OneDrives of the world and whatnot.
Sure. So
do you see a massive take up?
Advantage.
Yeah. Do you guys see a massive take up?
Oh yes. So wherever we see a large VDI farm, specifically Horizon, and I can tell you my own personal experience that we got customers who are just rolling out Horizon for the last 6 months. Because of COVID-19, that has taken priority over everything.
Wow.
And that also gives the priority to also ensure security of the data, security of the desktop, and that Dropbox kind of functionality that will allow their teams to collaborate. And if I am a bank, if I am a large hospital, why would I put it on the public cloud? Because that security layer also worries. So that's where Cohesity acts as a layer that plugs into the VDI farm as a home directory and also as a Dropbox of the enterprise.
All right. I think, you know, coming to the tail end of this, I kind of want to talk a little bit about Cohesity in ASEAN, right? I mean, the whole intent here, I've always wanted to build a community around ASEAN, and, you know, I'm great to, you know, we have evangelists like yourself, you know, here. You guys are obviously massively expanding. You know, can you share a little bit, you know, where you guys are today in ASEAN, you know, which countries do you have presence in, and you know, that kind of stuff, because I mean, it's definitely exciting tech, right? I mean, given that a lot of us regional folks can't really travel, it's also good to know if you have in-country presence and whatnot. So I just want to kind of know where you guys are at, man.
Sure. I'll just give you a quick brief of Cohesity as well, right? Cohesity was founded by Dr. Mohit Aron. Mohit is a quite quite a unique genius, right?
The guy who started Nutanix, man.
He started Nutanix, and he wrote the Google file system to key parts of it, at least. So he brings in a massive experience, and it's like a pulling magnet, right? And he got great vision in his mind. So he built this business around great technology and great team. In specific to APAC, the headquarters is Singapore. In Singapore. So the company is about 1,300 globally, closing there. And in Singapore, we have a headquarters. We are based in Centennial Tower, close to Suntec, one of the floors there. So if you look at, we got regional people, we got different sales teams in Singapore, and we also have offices outside of Singapore in Malaysia and in Thailand.
Wow. Okay.
And we have, so this is ASEAN. So we do work with, and one of the key thing about Cohesity is embracing partners. We are 100% channel-driven company. So it's not that we have to be, I mean, this is a classic example. COVID-19, we don't have to see customers physically. Similarly,
tough, man.
Similarly, we travel to the speed of light nowadays through any partners to any customer. So that gives us the advantage through our pathways, which are partners in rest of ASEAN, and we got some unique OEMs, which is quite pretty happy to be here, right? HPE,
nice.
Right? HPE is one of our largest OEM. We got Cisco as the second OEM, and very newest, which we just announced, Pure Storage, right? So
okay, interesting. I wasn't aware. I mean, I kind of knew Cisco was a partner. I didn't know HPE and Pure. I mean, because I would kind of think Pure has an overlapping portfolio of sorts, but it's interesting. So are you saying that Pure resells Cohesity, or how does that work?
Oh yes. So it's public, so I can share.
Yeah.
So if you look at, let's go one OEM at a time. So HPE, we are into their price book. So any partners of HPE, any distributor of HPE can leverage it. Same applies to Cisco. They carry in their price book.
Very nice.
The third one is Pure. They also carried our product in their price book. This is specifically around flash recover. So what Cohesity does is we load in our software on our compute, plugs into the flash blade, and any Pure environment, we can beautifully do the backup in seconds. That's fully flash, right? All powered flash. And that's a joint product called the Flash Recover. So that means the 8,000 odd Pure customers around the globe can leverage this new technology as a combined solution.
Wow, so
Great innovation.
I'm assuming it integrates, the snapshot capabilities and all the nice, cool stuff in.
Oh, that's been always there, but this is a joint OEM model, if you call.
Awesome, that's cool, man. Hey, you know what? Thank you so much for being here today. I mean, I didn't want to take too much of your time. I know you're probably busy as well and everything else. But it's been great talking to you, man. I think, of course, I knew there were things that, about Cohesity that I was very familiar with, but hey, I learned quite a bit as well today. Probably at some point, I might get you or one of your consultants to come on and kind of show us the tech, man. A couple of demos and show and tell. That'll be fantastic, actually.
Absolutely, Charles. Thank you. So I think it was a great session. I really enjoyed it as well. Some of the questions were really, really making a lot of sense, especially in COVID-19 times.
Yeah,
and I can tell you.
Yeah. So, I mean, just kind of add to that as well. In COVID times, I'm sure you have done a whole lot of webinars, myself included. I've done a whole bunch of webinars, and we are kind of getting webinar fatigue. So I wanted to keep all sessions kind of fairly short. Get snippets, sound bites. Just get a little bit of information going, and then if we ever want to go dive into something deeper, we could get there. But
Perfect.
All right, man. Thank you so much. Maybe we'll catch up again soon. For coffee or for beer.
Okay, thanks, Charles. Awesome. We'll do the catch up.
Right. See you, man.